This is Research Like a Pro, episode 279, Unmerging on FamilySearch Family Tree. Welcome to Research Like a Pro, a genealogy podcast about taking your research to the next level, hosted by Nicole Dyer and Diana Elder, accredited genealogist professional. Diana and Nicole are the mother-daughter team at FamilyLocket.com and the authors of Research Like a Pro, a genealogist guide. With Robin Worthland, they also co-authored the companion volume, Research Like a Pro with DNA. Join Diana and Nicole as they discuss how to stay organized, make progress in their research, and solve difficult cases. Let's go! The sponsor of today's episode of Research Like a Pro is newspapers.com, the largest online newspaper archive. Hi everyone, welcome to Research Like a Pro.
Hi Nicole, how are you today?
Well, I've been really enjoying my research report for the study group. It's been so fun to work on that. How about you?
Oh, I've been doing the very same thing. Mine has been really illuminating. You know, we always say writing the report makes you make more connections, but this time I had such complicated data, I was not able to make the connections until I put things into tables and started writing about it. And I've been able to separate out two men, John Klein, who goes by John Klein or John C. Klein, and then another man who also goes by John Klein and John C. Klein in the records. And guess how I figured out who was who?
How?
I had to use the land description because the tax records listed the land description and the land patents list the land descriptions. So once I had those put together, I could figure it out. And it was really important to do this because the John Klein, who I'm pretty sure, about 90% sure, is the younger John Klein, died. And it has his estate being taxed in 1848. And I assumed at first when I saw that it was the elder John Klein. But in using the land descriptions and correlating everything I know about these men, I've been able to separate them out and figure out it was the younger one that died. So that was a really big aha moment and an exciting thing to find. And I'm still have lots of questions about these people. And those of you listening might be wondering why this is such a big conundrum. Well, the problem is the two counties that they lived in, Fulton and Izard County, are severely burned counties. And so I don't have any probate or marriage records or deeds, none of that I would ordinarily use. So I'm using these tax lists that were sent to the state and federal land records. So correlating what I have has been a trick.
That sounds like it was hard but rewarding.
Yes, and I keep poring over my table and the data, making sure I've analyzed that correctly to make sure I'm not missing anything, which is why I'm really glad this is a study group project, because I'll be getting some peer review and see if someone else can see something different that I am not seeing.
Yeah, one thing I learned from working on my research plan and report last week is that reviewing the known information and making a good hypothesis are so important before you start researching. I had done a little research at the Family History Library when I was there with you for the APG conference, and that was before I had made my plan. So I thought I knew what I needed to look for. I thought, oh yeah, I'll just look for all the different people with the surname Dyer in Granger County, Tennessee. But then when I came home, I decided I needed to finish my research plan and make a formal strategy there. And in doing that, I recognized that my research subject was not living in Granger County before 1850. As far as I knew, that was the first census he appeared on anyway. He wasn't there in 1840. So a lot of the pages that I scanned at the library were too early. And I really don't need to spend a lot of time going through all of the Dyer men prior to 1840, because by 1840, James was gone. So that was a lesson to me in really making a very focused plan and making sure that you focus on what you're trying to find. In my case, I was trying to trace him back in time in order to figure out who his father was. And I think I need to trace him to a different county outside of Granger County. So I focused on the pages I had copied from the 1840s and 1850s. And I did find that he aged out of tax records in 1854. So he was there on 1851, 1852, and then by 1853 and 1854, he was gone. And what was cool is that there was a new guy there named Neri, Neri. And then one time he appears as Nera and another time as Nero. So I don't know what his real name was. But then I traced him on the census to the 1850 census, and he was living in Hawkins County, Tennessee. And he was listed as Neri again. Neri Dyer. I had never seen that name before, but if anyone listening knows what that could be short for, if that was just a regular name, let me know. But he definitely seems related because the hypothesis for James's wife's surname is Cozart, and Neri Dyer was living next to a Wiley Cozart in Hawkins County. So I got some really great clues that I kind of am being flexible with my research plan to follow those clues. So it's just interesting how, before I made my plan, I thought it would be one way, but after really focusing on my objective, making a plan, and then starting to follow it, it took me in a little bit of a different way.
That's a great lesson for all of us to learn. And I agree that whole idea of the hypothesis is so important. We have to have some starting point with what we think happened and then try to prove or disprove it. Well, it's exciting to be doing some of our own research and making progress on these cases, even though they're little tiny baby steps. Sometimes I feel like I look back to where I was when I started all this research and I've actually made quite a bit of progress.
Yay.
And it sounds like you have too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's do some announcements. We have our Airtable Quick Reference Guide available in PDF from the website. And so if you haven't purchased that yet and started using Airtable, we would invite you to try it out. We absolutely love it for our research. And then we have our Research Like a Pro webinar series for 2023, where we have monthly case studies featuring the Research Like a Pro and Research Like a Pro with DNA process. And these have been so fascinating to see how all sorts of different geographical locations and time periods and different types of cases have been solved, or people have made progress using the process. So we are loving these case studies. Our next offering will be on Tuesday, December 19th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And this will be presented by Candy Risher. The title is Proving the Mother of Cornelia Robertson Hickerson, a DNA Case Study. And Candy describes this as a presentation where only two documents tentatively connected Cornelia Robertson Hickerson to her biological mother. Cornelia's descendants believe she made the journey from Tennessee to Texas in 1872 alone to start a new life as a teacher at 16. No documentary evidence of her life in Tennessee has been located. A biological relationship to Cornelia Robertson Hickerson's mother and maternal grandmother was proven using the Research Like a Pro with DNA process from start to finish. This case study will outline the process and results, naming Cornelia's mother, grandmother, and previous unknown siblings. Well, I can't wait to watch this. This is going to be fabulous. And the topics that we'll be touching on, some of these are our locations as well: Texas, Tennessee, census records, marriage records, burned counties, newspapers, the research log and timeline on Airtable, diagrams.net, Gephi, Ancestry DNA, MyHeritage DNA, 23andMe DNA, and Family Tree DNA. Wow, so you can see that Candy has used a lot of DNA tools, and this should be just fascinating to see how everything came together. And I think this is one of our biggest research conundrums, figuring out these unknown women. Now, a little bit about Candy. Candy Risher got hooked on genealogy at the age of 13 when her parents bought an early version of Family Tree Maker from the bargain bin. This led to many late nights and weekends at the local library doing the best research she could do with limited resources. As an adult, and with the advent of online research and resources, Candy continued to research her family with mixed results until she finally decided to get serious in 2020. A Google search led to the Research Like a Pro process, and suddenly brick walls started to crumble. Candy specializes in research in the southern United States with a special emphasis on Texas research. Candy has completed the Research Like a Pro study group and the Research Like a Pro with DNA study group and has mentored in both. She also completed the ICAP Gen Level 1 study group and is preparing to submit her Level 1 research to begin the process of accreditation in earnest. Candy holds a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from the University of Texas at Dallas. She's a member of the National Genealogical Society, the Denton County, Texas Genealogical Society, and Association of Professional Genealogists. Wow, well, that's great to learn more about Candy, and we'll all be excited to learn from her. Other announcements, our next Research Like a Pro with DNA study group begins February 2024, so you can look for registration opening soon for that. And there is a peer group leader application on our website if you feel like you would like to help and lead a small group of peers. And we would invite you to join our newsletter for our latest news, coupons, and the latest podcasts and blog posts. Upcoming conferences, we have Roots Tech 2024, which starts on February 29th. It's a 3-day conference, and registration is open for that. If you register before November 18th, you get a 3-day pass for $99. After that, it increases to $109. Nicole and I will both be presenting, and so we hope to see some of you there.
Yeah, just a few more days to register for the $99. So make sure you jump on that. That's a great deal. Well, today's topic is more about family search. So, in our last episode, we talked about the other relationships feature at Family Search. And today we'll talk about unmerging people of the same name who've been merged together. And I came across this conundrum and problem that I had to figure out because I was updating the Family Search tree with my conclusions from a recent project about my husband's third great grandmother, Bathsheba Tharp Dyer, and her ancestral line. She was born about 1813 and died in 1899. I had written a proof argument and a couple research reports that I wanted to upload to Family Search Family Tree in the memories and sources sections of the relevant ancestors that were mentioned. And I also wanted to go through and attach all the important sources that I had found. And so I was working on this, but when I got to Bathsheba Tharp's mother's father, John West, whom I had researched extensively, I found that his profile was merged with several other men named John West, and he had all these extra wives and extra children and multiple sets of parents that were mixed with his actual family members. So I was really annoyed and frustrated because at first the prospect of having to untangle all of that and figure out all the dates and sources and relationships was very daunting. But the fact that I had done a lot of research on John already really motivated me to go ahead and use what I had found to untangle all these identities and put in the sources. So I just decided I needed to do a little bit of research on the other John Wests to have enough of an idea of who they were, where they lived, their unique relationships, and a couple sources for them so I could separate the other men out. And so unmerging the profiles and updating them with the sources did take me quite a few hours of work, but in the end, I felt it was very worthwhile. I use the Family Search tree for many purposes, and it's important to me that it's correct, and I really want to help it be good. So if you feel the same and you like to use the Family Search Family Tree to search for end of line ancestors in your DNA matches trees, or to find cousins to collaborate with, or to preserve your research, then you may want to also do this if you find a profile that has many people merged. So, we're going to go through some of the steps that I took to unmerge and restore the profiles of the multiple John Wests.
All right, so let's start with step 1, which is to open the change log. You open the change log for the profile that has several people of the same name merged together. And you see this on the person page. There is a sidebar on the right side of the page, and you want to look for the heading Latest Changes. And then at the bottom of that box, you'll see Show All. And you want to click that to open the full changelog. Then scroll to the bottom of the changelog to continue to load the older changes. Scroll all the way to the bottom until there are no more changes to load. And after scrolling to the bottom, you should be able to see the original details about the person with this ID number. So in the blog post that Nicole wrote, there's a screenshot showing all of these different steps. And on that screenshot, we can see that the profile for John West with the specific ID LJ5PSFM was originally created in 2014 by a particular user, and that he had a child named Henry and a wife named Sarah Broadwater. Over time, his profile was merged with at least 2 other different John Wests and many more duplicate profiles for those 3 main John Wests.
Right, that's so tricky when some of them really were duplicates, but then other of those profiles were different men. So I had to go through and make a list. So step number 2 was to make a list of all these different individuals and their ID numbers, because in Family Search, every time you create a new individual, they're given a unique ID. So I made a Word document and I made a list in that document with all of these people who were deleted as a result of various merges. In this particular example, there were multiple merges. And you can find them by scrolling from the bottom of the changelog upward until you find the first instance of a merge. And the way you find it is you look for something that says deleted person and surviving person, and each of them will have unique ID numbers. So you can click on the deleted person's name and open the deleted profile in a new tab. So I opened all these new tabs with each of the deleted profiles. And then you can tell they're deleted because at the top of the profile it will say deleted, and it doesn't have any information on the deleted profile. So that was tricky. You had to like look in the changelog. But in order to keep track of each deleted profile and the relevant details, I put them into my document and made a table in my Word document. So I started by listing the current profile that included 4 wives and 13 children. And I knew that there were at least 2 men merged together, maybe more. Then I started a new row for the different deleted individuals' names and their ID numbers.
I love tables, and it sounds like you're using this in such a creative way. I love it. So, next, you listed in your document the vital information for each deleted individual. And so, an easy way to accomplish this is to open the profiles of each deleted person in a separate tab, just like you talked about. And from here, you can review the birth and death dates. Deleted individuals' profiles don't show any family relationships or sources, just vital information, memories, and the changelog. But fortunately, you can open the deleted person's changelog to see who their parents, spouses, and children were before the merge. And this relationship information is really important for identifying people uniquely. So in the screenshot on the blog post, we see the deleted profile for the John West who married Sarah Broadwater, and that this was a true duplicate that needed to be merged. Often a duplicate is created when someone creates a parent for their ancestor, then realizes that parent is already in the tree. Then the profile below included John West and Sarah Broadwater with the supposed daughter Matilda Ann Broadwater West. And Nicole later found that this daughter actually belonged to this John West's second wife. And this John West, who married Sarah Broadwater, seemed to be the main profile that was separate from the John West Nicole was researching. It included parents that didn't belong to the right John West. So as you're going through the changelog, you can note relationships, dates, places, and sources in your document. And as you do that, you should start to get a pretty good idea of which individuals are unique and need to be restored. One of the deleted profiles Nicole found in the changelog belonged to the John West she was researching of Fauquier County, who she had researched extensively and prepared a research report. And he was married to Bathsheba Arnold first and Sarah Webb second. And Nicole noticed that the user who added him believed his name was John Thomas West Sr., and that he had a son named John Thomas West Jr. Nicole thought this was interesting since she had found over 30 sources for John West of Fauquier County, Virginia, and Hawkins County, Tennessee, and none of them included a middle initial or middle name. However, from the wives and children, it was clear this was the profile that she needed to use to restore for the correct John West she was researching. So even though you might have some ideas about who is who after this step, stop and go slow before you make assumptions about which relationships are correct. It's important to do your own research and validate the information.
Yes, I was tempted to go ahead and unmerge the profiles at this point and restore the various ones, but then I realized, I should probably do a little bit of my own research in original records just to make sure that this information is even true for the other guys, because I knew about my guy, but not the other ones. And now a word from our sponsors. Newspapers.com is your ultimate resource for discovering your family's history. Explore more than 800 million newspaper pages in their vast collection spanning 3 centuries. Newspapers.com is your gateway to exploring the past with papers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond. Trace your family's journey and uncover the extraordinary tales of your ancestors through newspaper stories, birth and marriage announcements, obituaries, photos, and much more. For listeners of today's show, newspapers.com is extending a discount of 20% off on a publisher extra subscription. Just use the code FamilyLocket at checkout. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. So, the next step is to research each same named individual. So, like I said, I needed to research the different John Wests that I didn't know about. And this is important to do before restoring the unique individuals who were incorrectly merged into one profile. You just want to fact check the vital information and relationships just to make sure there's sources to support or refute the conclusions. And I like to do this anytime I'm making a change in the family search tree because people are going to ask me, why did you make that change? And if I don't have any sources, I'm going to feel kind of silly. So I had already researched my John West of Fauquier County. So I needed to research the other John Wests and more fully identify them through their residences and relationships. Now, if we haven't said this yet, Fauquier County is in Virginia. And there were other John Wests from Virginia, just different counties. So as I got into the research and started learning about the various John Wests, at first I wasn't sure which information belonged to who. So when I found a source that looked like it belonged to one of them, I just started saving the links to the sources at the end of my notes document in a very basic research log, just a bulleted list. Some of the sources I found were authored, some were original, but before believing the authored sources, I tried to validate them with original records created near the time of the person's life. I did find an index of marriages and ancestry that was based on family group sheets, which are authored. I didn't feel that the source was high quality, but it was all I could find at first for the marriage of this other John West to Sarah Broadwater. Then I did find a will of John West written in 1806, recorded in the same year in Fairfax County, Virginia, whose widow was named Elizabeth. She was named as a guardian for John West's youngest two children. A different guardian was appointed for John's older children. He also had two older children who didn't need guardians. And as I transcribed his will, I had a strong feeling that this John was married to a woman before his widow, Elizabeth, and I suspected it was Sarah Broadwater. The guardianship records and will, all recorded in the Fairfax County will books, were invaluable for piecing this family together. Unfortunately, I didn't find any original records showing Sarah Broadwater and John West's marriage, but I did find a few additional authored sources who had come to the same conclusion that there was a John West who died in 1806 in Fairfax County, Virginia, who was married first to Sarah Broadwater and second to Elizabeth and had 5 children, all mentioned in his will. Then I did find that there was one other unique John West who was named John Bakeman West, who had a son named John Bakeman West Jr. and 2 other children. This family appears to have started in Virginia, then migrated to Kentucky and Tennessee. Since the names were pretty different with that unique middle name, it was easier to differentiate the family.
Well, I think that this is such a valuable thing to be talking about today because I love the way you did the table and that you added the research below that so that everything is right there and you can really clearly see things before you go and start restoring people's profiles because we don't want to make any extra work for ourselves. We don't want to mess up the FamilySearch family tree. So now that you have this table and you had your sources, you felt pretty sure about all these unique people, it was time to go restore and update the profiles to reflect those unique John Wests. So Nicole decided that the original merged profile would be for the John West of Fairfax County, Virginia, and then she would restore the deleted profiles for John Bakeman West Sr. and John West of Fauquier County, Virginia. But the other deleted profiles were true duplicates that she would not need to restore. So how do you restore a person? Well, you simply click Restore Person button on the deleted individual's profile, and then after you've restored them, you can edit each new profile to include vital facts, places, correct relationships, and sources. And so this involves removing incorrect dates, places, and sources from the original merged profile, then add them to the correct individual. And Nicole then uploaded her report about John West of Fauquier County, Virginia, to the profile she had restored. And she also determined that some of the child relationships were incorrect. John West of Fairfax had 2 extra children that didn't belong to him or any of the other 2 John Wests. And Nicole detached those and included reason statements like, this individual lived in North Carolina and wasn't listed in John West's 1806 Fairfax County, Virginia will. John West of Fairfax County's profile had several sources and facts that belonged to the John West Nicole was researching. For example, he had a residence in Fauquier County, so she deleted that. And then all the sources from the merged profiles were attached to John West of Fairfax County's profile, and most belonged to Nicole's John West. And so she detached all of those and reattached them to the John West of Fauquier County. Then she created several new sources for the will and guardianship records that she had located for John West of Fairfax County. Now, some of these sources were authored and some were original, but hopefully they will be enough to discourage further incorrect merges. Although exact dates and places aren't always available for individuals living in the 1700s in Virginia, it is possible to estimate. And this is important to do because FamilySearch has a merging algorithm that will suggest merging individuals with similar birth dates and places. So if you leave that birthplace blank or have it just be something general like Virginia, you may get more suggested merges that end up being incorrect. So the goal for Nicole was to add enough unique information to each of those 3 profiles so that no more incorrect merges would be suggested. So if you are unmerging profiles like this, but you don't update and fix each profile, you'll probably see them suggested as a merge again later. So to estimate John West of Fairfax County's birth information, Nicole consulted one of the authored sources that listed his parents. His parents resided in Fairfax County, Virginia at the estimated year of his birth, so she added that specific location to his birth and added a reason statement that said, quote, John West was probably born in Fairfax County where his parents resided at the time of his birth, end quote. The birthplace of John West of Fauquier County, who Nicole is researching, is still under question, so she opted to leave his birthplace blank. One hypothesis is that he was born in Virginia, but another strong possibility exists he was born in England. And the 1880 census of his first daughter states that she was born in England, so it's an interesting clue. The report Nicole wrote focused on determining his parents and came up with no strong leads, but she did eliminate several candidates who lived in Virginia as his parents. She was able to estimate the year of birth for John West of Fauquier, and in the report, she discussed the tax records and censuses he appeared on and how she narrowed the range of his birth to 1761 to 1767. So she just copied and pasted the reasoning straight from the report into the reason statement for his birth year, which was already set to 1764. And then she used the citations in her report to add several sources to the John West of Fauquier County. And her method was to go to the source page for his profile, click New Source, paste the citation in the citation field, and then used various parts of the pasted citation for the other fields. FamilySearch has things like date, title, the URL, and then she also pasted details from her report taken from the source into the notes field. And most of the sources she added were unindexed deed and court images from FamilySearch. Nicole didn't add every source from the report since she was also uploading the complete report as a source and also added it as a document in the memory section. And she chose the most important sources that provided evidence for relationships. This particular source, listed above, provided the important clue that John West witnessed a deed in Fauquier as early as April 1787. That was the first time he was mentioned in Fauquier County, Virginia records. So, wow, a lot of work there. If you are wondering how you add a document like a research report as a memory in a source, the simplest way to do it is to upload a PDF of the report to the memory section first, and then you can go to the source section, click Add Source, and add a new memory source. And then you can select the PDF you already added as a source as well. Then after you create a new source, it will automatically be saved to your source box, and then you can add the sources to other people's profiles. So that source, the deed from Humphrey Arnold to Gustavus Horner witnessed by John West, was originally created for John West's profile, but then Nicole went to his father-in-law's profile, Humphrey Arnold, and attached the same deed to Humphrey's list of sources. So to attach a source from your source box, go to the additional person sources, click Add Source, and attach from source box. I love that feature of being able to do it once and then get it attached to everybody else.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to just quickly attach a source from your source box. Well, after getting all of the sources added, I figured people would probably see that and maybe wouldn't make changes. But I didn't want to hope that people wouldn't make changes. I decided to go ahead and add an alert note. And this is a unique feature of FamilySearch that is kind of like a pop up or a caution that appears to users of FamilySearch and lets them know, hey, read this note before you change anything. So I had done all this work to update each individual's profile so that it contained only facts, sources, and relationships that truly belong to them as determined to the best of my ability. So if you've done that too, you will want to add an alert note. This just lets other users know that important research has been done for the individual. And the alert note stays at the top of the person's profile. When a person clicks on the alert note, they can read whatever you put into the note. So the alert note that I wrote for John West of Fauquier County and John West of Fairfax County included the same basic information that there were several men named John West living in Virginia at this time. So please do not merge them. Don't merge them back. And I just said, don't merge them unless you've reviewed all the vital information, relationships, and sources very carefully. So if you want to add an alert note, look for the notes section in the right-hand sidebar and click add note. Then check the box that says alert note. You can add all kinds of notes, but they don't all have to be alert notes. My final step was to update my notes document with information about the John West profiles I restored and updated. So after adding the alert note, I just did a final little update to my document and my conclusion and my result. So this was quite an involved process, but I was very happy after finishing it that the tree had a lot more sources and was a lot more accurate. So if you've done extensive research about an individual like I had with John West of Fauquier County, Virginia, hopefully you can follow the steps here and the process will be easy for you. As you can see, merging and unmerging individuals who you don't know much about is challenging. So it's just important to learn about them a little bit before you undertake this process.
Well, thanks, Nicole, for writing the blog post and for taking us through all of those different steps. I think it's so nice to have it laid out clearly. And I know so many people have this problem with merged identities on FamilySearch, and it can be so frustrating, especially if you've gone to the work to unmerge them and then they get merged again. So I love that FamilySearch has given us that opportunity to do the alert note. That is so brilliant and so great. Good luck, everyone. Go look at FamilySearch and see what you can do about getting it cleaned up a bit and getting some unique profiles created for those people that have all been merged together. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. We hope that something you heard today will help you make progress in your research. If you want to learn more, purchase our books, Research Like a Pro and Research Like a Pro with DNA on Amazon.com and other booksellers. You can also register for our online courses or study groups of the same names. Learn more at FamilyLocket.com/services. To share your progress and ask questions, join our private Facebook group by sending us your book receipt or joining our courses. To get updates in your email inbox each Monday, subscribe to our newsletter at FamilyLocket.com/newsletter. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. We read each review and are so thankful for them. We hope you'll start now to research like a pro.